Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It is clear that we are getting closer and closer to the redemption of the children of Israel. We're watching a little bit more of the true doctrine of Christ come out, especially when you get to organizations who have went through great lengths to avoid speaking the truth of this word. We knew that we were at a turning point when Farrakhan ended up putting out 3 or 4 books explaining that the so-called African American are the true children of Israel. We knew from the beginning that that was always known amongst Muslims, that the first Hebrews were black. If you go back and watch the first Malcolm X movie, when he had the interaction with the person at the jail, he stated that the first Hebrews were black. They already knew that. So this was not a new thing, but they made a lot of money doing those things in the Nation of Islam. And when we did see, we went down downtown, me and a couple of brothers, when those things happened. This brother had his own motorcade. He had his own police. When he said Nation of Islam, he pulled up with his own security. It was like the president pulled up. 4 or 5 black vehicles. You couldn't figure out which one he was in. Big bodyguards with arms that looked like legs. It looked like Obama had came to town. But now that it's time for the truth to start coming out, he invited all of those people and to come downtown, and he had 3-4 books already written and told all of the Muslims of the Nation of Islam that they were the true Jews, and then went right back to calling upon Allah. So understand, you have to look at why this doctrine is starting to come out now. It was prophesied that the children of Israel would go in a land that is not theirs and be serve those people for 400 years. We have to understand what people thought. We had already been captives to the Africans, which is where we came from. We were not Africans. We are not Africans. We came from being in servitude there. But there was a reason why this prophecy was given for the 400 years, because at the culmination of that would also be at the end of the 2,520 years that the Gentiles were given to rule this earth. And all of those things are coming to a head at the same time. So there's a reason why this doctrine is starting to be heard now. It has always been here. It's not a new doctrine. It's right in the same book that has always been on our coffee table. But when Yahweh has closed your eyes and ears to something, it don't matter how many times you pick up that book, you're not going to see it until he's ready for you to see it. But before we get started, brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence?
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received a gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Messiah, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Messiah also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks.
When you talk about all of those things, how do you understand what those things are? We understand that by what's written in the law code. But what has been given unto us today is a doctrine that says that there's no such thing as a law, and all law has been done away with. So what man has done is taken the fulfillment of animal sacrifice, which is what the Mashiach did, what Christ did, and they have made that to say that all law is now done away with. But even in the very oracles we read, it starts talking about certain things. How are you going to implement those things without law? Every business you go in have some kind of law. Quick Trip got law. It's a little thing on there say no shirt, no service. What you think that is? Those rules. So if you come up there now trying to get your redneck on with no shirt, no shoes, they gonna tell you turn around and go back out the door. You can't come in here like that. They have rules. Y'all ain't got rules. But see, this easy doctrine that we've been given has put things out there to make people believe that they can get something for nothing, and it's a scheme. And all schemes that have something for nothing usually end up bad for the person who try to get involved in it. And that's what this new doctrine is. Something for nothing. We think that these things have always been around, but this prosperity doctrine and this you can't lose your salvation, that's a new doctrine. Our great grandfathers didn't preach that. See, we think that it's always been that way. No, they used to preach. If the people who dealt with this New Testament, they didn't try to exclude revelation. Nowadays, the people who say that they believe in New Testament, they exclude revelation. Why? Because it's all about judgment, and you cannot have judgment without law. So they have to throw out the book of Revelation because they cannot discuss law. Go ahead, bro.
Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23 verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Now, when we examine the more popular doctrines of today, we find them to be quite different from the actual writings in the Holy Bible. We also find that the devil has used a divisive scheme to keep the peace of the word from uniting the children of Israel. There are some that have been taught against the Old Testament in such a way that they won't accept anything from it. Even while professing the New Testament, they trample all over the teachings of the very testament that they profess to live by. Let's begin today's sermon in Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And today's sermon is entitled, The Doctrine of the New Testament. There are a lot of people that believe that they are justified in their actions because they say, we believe in the New Testament. They have completely thrown out everything that happens or that is written in the Old Testament. And here's the problem. There are prophecies in the Old Testament that have not been fulfilled yet. So if you're in the process of throwing all of those things out, you have completely thrown out the things that Christ is going to do in his second coming. See, there are certain parts of what Christ has to do that is written in the New Testament. But then the greater explanation of those things are in the Old Testament. Hebrews chapter 8, and let's start that at verse 1.
Now of things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of majesty in the heavens.
Now, when you're reading a lot of things in the New Testament, you're going to hear a lot about pastors, teachers, things of that nature. But when you get to Hebrews and you start reading those things, all of a sudden you start hearing words like priest and high priest. And what people have not done in this false doctrine of the New Testament, they have not separated the teachings from the Gentiles from the teachings of the children of Israel. When you read the things like Corinth and Ephesus, all of these are places. Corinth, we're talking Greece. These are the places where the Apostle Paul went. So he's dealing with primarily Euro-Gentiles, but along that way, there are the children of Israel who've gotten scattered there. And you'll notice, and you have to pay attention, there are times when he steps aside and deals with them. He has to deal with them in a different way because the children of Israel were given the law. The Gentiles were not given the law. So it was certain things that the Euro-Gentiles don't even have to deal with, but the children of Israel do. So you have to understand those things. That's why when you're reading Hebrews, you're going to hear words like priest, high priest. You read Corinthians and those books, you're not going to hear anything about priests because they're not given the priesthood. The children of Israel was set to be a kingdom of priests. So understand, circumcision was given to Israel. Circumcision was not given to the Gentiles. The problem is we've been told that everybody is a Gentile. But Genesis 10 describes who the Gentiles are, and those would be who we call Caucasians. Go ahead.
Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 2. A minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Adonai pitched, and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law.
Now, it's talking about offering gifts according to the law. There are priests that offer these things that are on earth. This is the New Testament we're talking about. Go ahead.
Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moshe was admonished of Elohim when he was about to make the tabernacle. For, see, saith he, that you make all things according to the pattern showed to you in the mount. But now has he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith.
Right, finding fault with them, the people. Go ahead.
Behold, the days come, saith the Adonai, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Adonai. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Adonai.
Now, what you've noticed is twice it has says, I will. This is the new covenant, right? This is the New Testament, and he's talking about the new covenant in future tense. A lot of people keep talking about we're part of the new covenant. They don't really understand what the new covenant is. This is the New Testament, and it's still saying future tense, not now. See, people don't understand what's going on. Go ahead.
I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts.
Right. I will put my laws into their hearts and into their mind. Yet what we've heard is that the law is nailed to the cross and you don't have to do anything. Once again, that something for nothing scheme. And every time we've ever tried to get something for nothing, we either end up out of money or out of our freedom, locked up somewhere, trying to get something for nothing. Go ahead.
And I will be to them a Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Adonai, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest.
So these very things that we're discussing now, trying to get people to understand the righteousness of the law, we won't have to do that, because he will put those laws in your heart and your mind. See, people think they're just going to be automatically just going to receive the kingdom, but they're not going to have to do anything for it. That's not what this book says. Go ahead.
I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more.
Iniquities is lawlessness. The definition of sin is the transgression of the law. So there cannot be law without sin. There cannot be sin without law. If there is still sin, there must still be law. It's not possible. The definition of sin is the transgression of the law. So if somebody told you that the law is nailed to the cross, what they just told you is ain't no more sin on earth. Now, blind man can see better than that. You don't believe there's no more sin? Leave your keys in your car and walk away from it. See how long your car stay there. Go ahead. Try it. See how fast somebody steal your car. And then don't go crying that somebody stole it if you're going to say, ain't no more law. What you mad for? It's the law that says you shall not steal. So if you are part and take hold to that doctrine that there's no law, why are you mad that person took your car? What you mad for? Go ahead.
Verse 13. In that he saith, A new covenant he has made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away.
Is ready to vanish away. Let's go to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, and let's read verses 17 through 24.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 17. Think not that I'm come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
Now, this is written in red. This is the Mashiach talking. And the Mashiach says, I am not come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Now, the only way to fulfill something is to do it. He fulfilled animal sacrifice by the sacrifice of himself. He couldn't fulfill adultery. He didn't commit it. He couldn't fulfill theft. He didn't steal nothing. He couldn't fulfill coveting. He didn't covet nothing that didn't belong to him. He can't fulfill those things. He didn't do them. The only thing he did was allow himself to be offered up. So he fulfilled animal sacrifice. That's it. Go ahead.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Not one of these things shall be missing from the law until all be fulfilled. We can read in the very New Testament, and it talks about this battle of Armageddon and all of these things that have to go on for the righteous judgment of the earth. So how can you read Matthew 5 and believe that all has been fulfilled? Go ahead.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
Right. Whosoever shall break even the least of these commandments. What happened is you have different groups of people. Some just don't like the word law. So they don't like commandments. Some will deal with the commandments because it say commandments. But if you say law, they say, okay, well, that doesn't have anything to do with it. A commandment is a law. It's the same thing. But what happens is our people have been poisoned against the word. But even when you deal with the commandments, you have certain commandments that people want to do and others that they jump across. They will automatically think that it is okay to violate the commandment of the Sabbath. But listen to what it says. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments. Now keep going.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
So, and whoever shall teach men so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. We learned this false doctrine of the New Testament while breaking the Sabbath day. We learned it on Sunday morning. Is where we learn this doctrine. A brother sent us a video last night. Brother Barack, I think, sent it out that had a very prominent preacher saying how you should not deal with any law whatsoever, even going so far as to say if you even deal with the 10 Commandments, you are out of order. And this person got a 10,000 member congregation. And it is amazing to me that people are still in there. This is the same one that on this part says don't deal with any law. Yet he has a video out on YouTube saying that if you don't tithe, you should be lined up in front of a firing squad and shot with a Uzi. Now, he believes in judgment if you don't pay your tithe. It's still 10,000 people sitting in there. He got congregations from here, New York, overseas, all over the place. And he say this kind of stuff, and people love that. But see, that's what happens when you don't read. And when you jump all around the place and don't read a full chapter. What happens a lot of times, if you don't get that complete thought. See, there's a reason why we got to go from 17 to 24. And matter of fact, I'm going to read verse 25 just so you can see that it's another subject matter. See, this is how people have bewitched us all these years. They read bits and pieces, but don't read the full amount that covers that subject. Go ahead.
Verse 20. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
You have heard that it was said by them of old time, you shall not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you,
this is the Mashiach. Now, somebody else is telling you that the law is nailed to the cross. Listen to what he says.
That whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment.
He went off the top rope. He has now made it even more difficult. So for somebody to tell you, you should not kill your brother. Christ said, if you angry with your brother, and I'm sorry, I got to be simple, or your sister, without a cause, you are in danger of the judgment. Now, let me be simple again. Let me explain cause. There's a law in here that says what causes are. If they have not done any of these things to you, you do not have a cause. Somebody hurt your feelings? That's not a cause. You are in danger of the judgment. That's so says Yahshua. So if you want to be angry with somebody about it, be angry at your creator. Because they ain't got nothing to do with me. Go ahead.
And whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar, and there remember that your brother has aught against you, leave there your gift before the altar.
And why would you remember that your brother have aught against you? Because you know what you did. But see, we catch selective amnesia. See? We can remember everything that happened to us, but we don't remember anything we did to somebody else. People will come and tell me this lopsided story. Man, he just jumped out of the car and slapped me. For real? He just jumped out of the car and slapped you? They didn't even put the car in park. The car just kept rolling. What? For real? What you do? Nothing. Right? Start talking to other people. Yeah, man, he threw a brick at the window. Excuse me? So then you go back to the other person. So you didn't remember throwing that brick? You know what, a brick did fly in my hand. Yes, it did. That's kind of why he got out the car and slapped you. But it is amazing. See, when you got that thing, you see your hurt is always more than somebody else's hurt. That's a given. But at some point, you got to come outside yourself so you can see what's going on in other places. You got to come outside yourself to feel somebody else's hurt and somebody else's pain. Or else you're left with this feel-good doctrine that has been delivered unto us that, oh, just love, God is love, with no idea on how to implement that. And that ain't gonna work. That's like what they doing now with all of the police shootings and everybody talking about, let's talk, we need to have dialogue. Ain't nobody talking about that. Everybody keep talking about, we need to hug one another. We should talk to one another. How that's gonna stop the police from shooting me? If I hug him, I got to raise my hand. Let me hug. Pow! I'm dead. I tried to hug the man. Now I'm dead. I can't even hug this dude. What are you talking about? That's not gonna fix this problem. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 24. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 24. Leave there your gift before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift.
So when we know that we have an issue, we're supposed to stop and go fix that issue, then go and offer our gift. That's not what's taught in this feel-good doctrine that people have called the New Testament. The New Testament has a bad name. It has a name that people have given it, saying that you can do whatever you want and still attain unto your salvation. And that's not what the New Testament says. But if you keep cherry picking and pick one line and don't read far enough to get that thought, you might believe that that's what it says. Read the next verse.
Agree with your adversary quickly while you are in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver you to the judge, and the judge deliver you to the officer, and you be cast into prison.
So now it's going into other aspects of dealing with this whole part of therefore if you bring your gift. Now it's going into the part of owing money to someone. Now, when we begin this at verse 17, it says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. In verse 25, he starts going into your regular law in dealing with man as far as finances and all of these things go. So sometimes you have to read enough to really cover the subject at hand. Now, on one hand, we had a video sent to us about even the commandments are to be done away with. On the other hand, we had a video by another Gentile prominent preacher. I mean, he has an auditorium. I mean, it's like his Sunday service is like going to the Georgia Dome every Sunday. That's how many people he got in there. Now, he put out a video and told his people, look, y'all should stop eating pork. That's white man now, and you know, hey, and you know it. They love their pork. I mean, they got pork cornflake, Jack. They got pork everything. They put pork on everything. They love it. They get turkey and put it inside a pork casing. What you do that for? He done messed up the turkey. That's how much they love pork. This man sat in front of his many thousand member congregation and told them that they need to be adhering to the dietary laws taught in the Bible. So much to the point where he had to tell the people, lock the doors, because the people got ready, they was upset. And not only did he tell them not to eat pork, he told them that they should not be eating shellfish. And then he explained why. That they were bottom feeders. Now, these are things that I've said, these brothers have said, these sisters have said. We've been saying this for decades. But you know what happened? Our people like to hear white people say it. That's when it get real to them. That's when it get real. And somebody said, what? Priest Sock said that? Yeah, but this white man, though. See, the white man said, you should not be eating it. Then he started talking about the pig and how foul the pig was. That the pig was a garbage disposal. We've said that for decades. How is that new? But people will respond because the Euro Gentile is saying it. So on one hand, you got one pastor saying, do away with all law. These other ones are starting to backdoor into the law. Why? Because they know that this judgment is coming. And you need to figure out which side of this line you're going to stand. You're going to have to figure it out. You ain't going to be able to have one foot on one side of the fence, the other foot on the other side, and then Yahshua come and take half of you. If he take half of you, you dead. You're going to figure out which one of them you're going to do one or the other. You're going to either fight on the side of the adversary or you're going to fight on the side of Yahshua. You're going to have to pick one of them sides. Because it is clear what he has written in here. Let's go to John chapter 4. 14, I'm sorry. John chapter 14. And we're going to read verses 15 through 26.
John chapter 14 and verse 15. If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father.
Read that again, brother.
If you love me, keep my commandments.
Now, you got a multi-thousand member congregation and their leader, and they love their leader so much, they said that he deserved to have a $50 million plane. $63 million, I'm sorry. I just left off a couple million. That's what it's like when you're broke. I don't know the difference between 50 million and 63 million. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got enough money to know the difference. But it say, if you love me, keep my commandments. So these people are taught, you don't have to deal with none of those commandments. Throw those commandments. Matter of fact, it says you have transgressed. If you even try to do the commandments, you have now somehow upset faith by observing the commandments. It's amazing to me that these charlatans can live. That after they say this kind of stuff, that people still sit in there and won't question a thing. And it is amazing. They can sit in front of 10, 15,000 people and say that. And we turn around and read Christ writing and people be ready to fight us. What you say? So you upset with what Christ had to say, but you didn't question. I've heard a television program where the same person said, you can sleep with everybody in the church. You still gonna go to heaven? What? And then people came right back next Sunday. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him. But you know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you. Yet a little while, and the world seeth me no more, but you see me, because I live, you shall also live. At that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He that has my commandments and keep them, he it is that loveth me.
Right. Now you got a lot of people that are profess with their mouth saying, oh, we love the Lord. Okay, so you keep the Sabbath day then. Well, no, the Sabbath is that's part of that old law. It is amazing how many of these conversations that we've had this week. It is utterly amazing. Yahweh show you what the subject matter is that you need to deal with. Because I'm just trying to go about my normal day. And folks will come up and, hey, bro, what you think about the Sabbath? What? Because, they just approach me, don't know who they talking to. They just asking the question. I'm like, are you kidding me? They want to discuss the law. Yahweh tell you what the subject matter is supposed to be. You ain't got to go looking around for something. Go ahead.
And he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him.
So he that has my commandments and keeps them, he it is that loves me. So the people who claim that they love the Most High but will not keep these commandments, they don't love the Most High. That's thus says his son. That's not me saying that. So you can uncrumble your face, stop chewing on them rocks, saying that I said something. No, all your anger need to be directed at Christ. He was the one that said, you don't have any love in you if you don't keep these commandments. That's his, those are his words. So you want to be angry, get on your knees, go ahead and do your prayer, and you go ahead and show him how angry you are. But see, it's much easier to direct your anger at the person you see. Israel always did it. They always tried to stone the prophets. The prophets didn't come and say niceties to everybody. They came and said, thus say Yahweh, you don't stop doing that, something gonna happen to you. They was gathering up rocks and kill you. Half the prophets got punched in the face, thrown in jail. Why? Because they wasn't saying this don't worry, be happy doctrine. And people have always hated it. So that's part of why they need to tell people, stay out of the Old Testament. Because they don't give you happy doctrine in the Old Testament, they give you truth. And they really don't give you straight up happy doctrine in the New Testament. But you can get that if you skip all the stuff that talks about judgment. Go ahead.
Yehuda saith unto him, not Iscariot, Adonai, how is it that you will manifest yourself unto us, and not unto the world? Yahshua answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him.
Right. So there are people that because they will not open themselves up to deal with the truth of this word, he has not revealed himself unto them. And they think that they're on the right path. Because he hasn't revealed otherwise. Go ahead.
He that loveth me not keepeth not my sayings. And the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's which sent me.
You see that? He letting you know this it's not my doctrine, it's my Father's doctrine. Go ahead.
These things I have spoken unto you, being yet present with you. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth.
That's far as I want to go on that. Let's go to 1 John chapter 2. See, it comes a time that people have to stop doing, well, you know, my pastor said this. My pastor said, what Christ said? That's what people don't do. And that's how people are led into this false belief system. Because they honor man more than they do Elohim. And that's a problem. 1 John chapter 2, and let's read verses 1 through 9.
My little children, these things write I unto you, that you sin not.
If there is no law, you can't sin at all. Go ahead.
And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahshua the Messiah, the righteous.
And how would you even know what sin is if you do not understand the commandments or law? Go ahead.
And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world.
He is the atonement sacrifice, propitiation. He fulfilled animal sacrifice. Go ahead.
And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments.
Here we go again. So when that video that the brother sent to me, when that was said, 10,000 people should have got up and walked out the room. Go ahead.
Verse 4. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him.
He that says, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. The fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. What it says about the Sabbath, it says the Sabbath is a perpetual covenant. It's a perpetual thing. Perpetual means forever. But you can tell people don't know what forever is by how many times they jump in and out of relationship. They say, we're going to get married. We're going to be married forever. Then forever end on 2 o'clock on some Tuesday. Then they get in a relationship with somebody else. We're going to be together forever. And then forever end on 2 o'clock on another Tuesday. Right. So people don't know what forever is. That's why they think it's okay that they can just wipe out certain things that they don't like. Go ahead.
Verse 5. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of Elohim perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him.
Now, but whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of Elohim perfected. Because you don't keep it, it will never be perfected inside of you. Go ahead.
He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked.
How did Christ walk? It says, as it was his custom, he went in for to read on the Sabbath day. Go ahead.
Brethren, I write no new commandment unto you, but an old commandment which you had from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which you have heard from the beginning. Again, a new commandment I write unto you.
So he's taking those same old things then and going on another level. Go ahead.
Which thing is true in him and in you, because the darkness is past, and the true light now shineth. He that saith he is in the light, and hateth his brother, is in darkness even until now.
All right, and let me be simple again. He that she is in the light and hate her sister is in darkness. I don't know why I got to be that simple, but sometimes I got to do that. Let's go to Luke chapter 12. Because, you know, we have a tendency to think things don't apply to us. I've sat in front of people and read, thou shalt not covet. And they said, that said, they shall not covet. No, that said thou. Thou mean you. No, they're talking about they, them, them and them. No. Thou meant you. Now, and they can constantly read this word and never see themselves. And that's a problem. That is a serious problem. Let's Luke chapter 12 and let's read verses 1 through 3. Go ahead.
In the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware you of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy.
There you go. The leaven of the Pharisees is their doctrine, and their doctrine is hypocrisy. So if you're going to tell somebody to constantly that the law is nailed to the cross, but then turn around and tell those people that they're going to be lined up in front of a firing squad if they don't give their tithe. Tithe is given in the law. Then you turn around and say that the law is done away with. That's hypocrisy. You can't turn left and then tell everybody don't turn left. Wait a minute, man. So which way we supposed to be going? Stay away from the law. Pay that money according to the law. What? What are you saying? Hypocrisy is what's being said. Let's go to Matthew chapter 23. But what happened is we are afraid to call people out on the things that they teach. And because we're trying to get something for nothing. Now, here goes the biggest part about something for nothing. The biggest part about something for nothing is we don't want to read. That's why we let somebody else read for us. See? So while they up there acting it out for us, doing a whole lot of hooping and hollering, we feel justified because we didn't have to go and sit home and read and study. So the something for nothing is allowing us to be made merchandise of, because we don't want to go home and read. And I know there are times that people leave here and they don't see their Bible again until the next Saturday. So believe you me, you're going to read when you come up in here. See, that way you can't say, well, Priest Sock said, no. Yahshua said that. I didn't say that. No, if you're going to be mad at the right person. Be mad at the right person. If you all puffed up, I want you to go to him puffed up. See how it work out for you. Go ahead. You bad? I'm right behind you. Way behind you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Matthew chapter 23. Let's read verses 1 through 2.
Then spake Yahshua to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat.
The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat. So even at this time, they were the religious authority of the church, and he called them straight hypocrites. How is that different than now? The biggest congregations are the biggest hypocrites ever. Ain't nothing changed. Jump to verse 23.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law.
Wait a minute. He says you have left off, omitted the weightier matters of the law. So the scribes and the Pharisees, who he calls hypocrites, Christ called them hypocrites. Don't go call nobody talking about, well, my priest said your pastor's a hypocrite. No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say it. Don't be calling up your cousin, starting no fight when you leave here. No. If you gonna say it right. Christ said your pastor a hypocrite. Don't say I said it. No, this the red writing. I didn't write none of this. He said, what do they do? He said the scribes and the Pharisees are the religious authority. He said they sit in Moshe's seat. So we know that they're the ones with the power. They do and profess tithing, but have omitted the weightier matters of the law. Now where can we find that at? Come on, you ain't got to look hard. Go ahead.
Judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone.
Right. So if you leave them undone, then you have left off some things. But you see what people do? It says the weightier matters of the law. Then it says judgment, mercy. You know, we skip judgment and mercy and move right to faith. See, that's a hypocrite. They leave off certain parts that they don't like. They leave off judgment. You cannot have judgment without law. They leave off mercy. Jump right to faith. Go ahead.
You blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess.
We have all these nice things that say God is love. He's so wonderful. Be nice to your brother. All right, show me how to be nice to him. Well, just be nice. No. Explain nice. Nice is nice, right? You see what happened? When you go with that little make-believe thing, you don't really have a way of implementing it. There's no way of saying what nice is. Except if you read the law, it tells you exactly how to deal with your brother. That way you don't have to figure it out. Because nice for this brother may not be the same as nice for that brother, which may be different for nice for that sister. So how do we judge nice? That was written in the book. So you ain't got to figure it out yourself. Go ahead.
You blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones.
Right. And that's a part of this thing, this appearance of righteousness, of smiling and talking about forgiveness, but at the same time, we omit judgment and mercy and just jump to faith. It's not going to work. Go ahead.
And of all uncleanness. Verse 28. Even so you also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore you be witnesses unto yourselves that you are the children of them which killed the prophets.
You are the children of them which killed the prophets. Why? Because when people start talking about keeping the righteousness of this law, they are assaulted. They are called and said that they're in a cult. They say all kind of things against you, and this is written in the book. So those very people, they are the sons and the daughters of those who killed the prophets. Why? Because the prophets spoke of judgment. The same thing that the scribes want to omit, and what the preachers of today omit, judgment. It's the same thing is happening, and not one thing has changed. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Oh, part of dealing with this is because people have been poisoned against this Old Testament. You're going to read these things in this New Testament, and you're going to find that it completely busts up that doctrine that they're dealing with. What happens is people believe that you have to go in the Old Testament to prove your case. No, I don't. You can give me half a book. I can tell you up with half that book. I don't care. You won't give me half the book? Go ahead. Go ahead. I can deal with it in the full part of the book, but if you want to give me half of the book because you think I can't fight with half of a stick, I'm going to show you. Give me that half a stick. I'm going to make nunchucks. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 through 15.
Verse 1. Be you followers of me, even as I also am of the Messiah. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the Messiah is Elohim.
So understand now, we're understand what Corinth is. We're talking about Greece. They have to have these things given unto them. Remember, when we was reading in Hebrews, we were reading about the priesthood. Understand, the priests were commanded to have a head covering on. Matter of fact, the high priests have to have 2 head coverings on. Go ahead.
Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head.
Right. So this is what's given unto these people of Corinth. Whenever you're reading something in the Bible, you need to consider 2 things. 1, who's talking? Number 2, who are they talking to? Okay, so he says every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. When brothers pray, we remove our head covering. But we are the children of Israel. Children of Israel are commanded to be a kingdom of priests. There's a dress code for priests. 5, go ahead.
But every woman that prayeth or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head. For that is even all one as if she were shaven. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn.
Shorn is shaven. Go ahead.
But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered.
So he offers 2 things. Either cover your head or cut your hair. Now, how many Christians you say? Now, they tell you, oh, they going to deal with this New Testament. I'm all about New Testament, child. I don't want to hear nothing about that old mean God you talking about. All right. So you going to cover that head or you going to cut the hair? What? I thought you said you believe in the New Testament. He gave you 2 choices. You can cover your head or you can shave the hair. What you gonna do? Let me read that. Right. You need to, now you want to read it, right? Right. But you'll find that the people who proclaim the New Testament don't do anything that's in it. Here's the problem. Some of those are really good people. They've been taught an incorrect way. Go ahead.
For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of Elohim, but the woman is the glory of the man. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created of the woman, but the woman for the man. For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels.
Right. So the woman is supposed to be covered. Even when you deal with these people who are Jewish, they cut their hair off and put a covering of hair on top of where they hair supposed to be. I ain't never heard of such foolishness in my life. So they'll shave their head and then put a wig on. What? So you be sitting there talking to them, and they be like, yeah, my head cover. I see hair, boo-boo. What are you talking about, a head cover? And then they got on the wig. Hey, what? So you shaved your hair and then put hair on top of that? Like when people take off all their eyebrows and then paint some other ones. What was wrong with the other eyebrows? You didn't like those? Were they too hairy? Go ahead, bro.
Verse 11. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Adonai. For as the woman is of the man, even so is the man also by the woman, but all things of Elohim. Judge in yourselves. Is it comely that a woman pray unto Elohim uncovered?
Now, when people like to jump, they like to cherry pick and jump from verse to verse. Do you see how long he keeps talking about this subject of head covering? So this is just not some trivial issue. Look how long we've been talking about this. Okay? This started in verse 1. We're still talking about covering. On Sunday morning, the only people that's covered is the mother's board. And they're not just by happenstance covered. They are ordered by the church mothers that they must have on a hat. Y'all think it's just decoration that those first 2 rows have on the prettiest hats in the building. See, I've seen one of those where the woman left out and she forgot her hat. And the head mother said, baby, you can't be down here without your covering. She said, I got an extra one in my office. I'll give it to you. No, you can't sit down there. See? So the respectable women sit down front in the mother's board. So there's a whole lot of things that happen right amongst you that you didn't know it was going on. Let me tell you what that means. That means they always knew this. They just didn't teach you. This is where people should have their anger. That every place that you've gone, this stuff that I'm telling you, it sounds new to you, but everywhere you've gone, 9 times out of 10, they knew it. They just wouldn't tell you. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man having long hair, it is a shame unto him?
So if a man have long hair, especially in the sanctuary, he needs to cover that up. Just like the women have to cover up. Go ahead.
But if a woman having long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering.
So we see the opposite from a man to a woman. The same way Yahweh made a man to have facial hair and a woman doesn't. But what they tell us? All the men shaving their hair off so they face can look just like their woman. We ain't supposed to look alike. Yahweh made that. Me and my woman shouldn't be getting our nails done and toes done at the same place. I'm getting a facial, she getting a facial. She getting hair plucked, I'm getting hair plucked. No, man, we ain't plucking no hairs around here. Yahweh has decreed what a man is supposed to look like. Let's go to Acts chapter 2. So you'll find that a whole lot of things are said about this New Testament, and it's a lie told on this New Testament. The New Testament didn't say that. And the New Testament getting tired of people lying on it. It getting tired. Because people keep telling lies saying the New Testament said this, and the New Testament said that. No. That's you taking that 2 verse right there and not reading the rest of that chapter. And leaning to the understanding that you wanted. Acts chapter 2, and let's read verses 1 through 20.
And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place.
Now, the only way to keep Pentecost is by understanding the setup of the holy days. This is one of the 7 holy days. There's 7 golden candlesticks on there. There's 7 days of creation. There's 7 trumpets, 7 vials. All of these things are based on this number, this fulfillment number of 7. And the 7th holy day is in the 7th month. So people want to tell you that these things have no correlation. They have deep correlation. So now we're dealing with Pentecost. Penta is a Greek term meaning 50. This is after the birth, death, and resurrection of Christ, and they're talking about Pentecost. This is the first 30 years of the church right here in Acts, and they're talking about Pentecost. Go ahead.
And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance.
So now we're talking about after the birth, death, and resurrection of the Mashiach, after Christ, and now they're keeping a holy day, and now the outpouring of the Spirit has come, and now they're able to speak with other tongues. Everybody want to receive the gift of the Holy Ghost, but don't want to do the things that were necessary to receive it. This outpouring happened on a holy day. Hypocrisy. That you want to receive the gift that's given out on a holy day, but don't want to keep the holy day. That's like showing up at work on check day, but you didn't go to work none of that week. And then argue with the people, so where my check at? Bruh, you didn't come to work. What they got to do with my check? Brother, you did not work. Yeah, but I don't understand. Why don't we have a check? How big of a hypocrite do you have to be to expect a check and you didn't work? You expect the outpouring of the Spirit, but you don't think you have to keep the holy day in which the gift was given? Oh, boy, that's deep hypocrisy right there, boy. That's some good stuff right there. That's rich. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Yehudis, devout men, out of every nation under heaven.
Right. Now, a tongue is a language. In the Strongs, it's glossaea. It's G1100. This word, the definition says, the tongue, by implication, a language. Specifically, one naturally unacquired. So when you see a tongue, it is a language, not the goo gobbledygoo that people telling you that they doing. Go ahead.
Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Now you see that? It's not goo gobbledygoo. Every man heard them speak in his own language. Go ahead.
And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? Parthians and Medes and Elamites, and the dwellers in Mesopotamia, and in Judea, and Cappadocia, in Pontus, and Asia.
Now, consider, because of the persecution, the children of Israel end up being scattered, fled, and as they go about to all of these places, then of course, they're learning the languages of those places, and sometimes they don't even know their native tongue because of being spread out and having kids in these areas. But then they're able to come and keep this Pentecost and all understand one another. That's the power of speaking in tongues. That's not what this false doctrine that we've received. Those people just holler out a bunch of goo gobbledygoo and say that they talking to the Spirit. Now, it says that this is a gift of the Spirit. I'm going to show you just how much, we have accepted these charlatans. Go ahead.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 10. Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt, and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Yehudis and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of Elohim.
We hear them speak in our tongues. Go ahead.
And they were all amazed, and were in doubt, saying one to another, What meaneth this? Others mocking said, These men are full of new wine. But Cephas, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, You men of Judea, and all you that dwell at Jerusalem, Be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken as you suppose, seeing it is but the third hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel.
So there's certain things that even reading the book of Acts, you don't understand because you've already null and voided the Old Testament. He automatically pushed back to the prophet Joel. You can't get to Joel until you go to the Old Testament. If you've already said, we ain't going to deal with nothing in the Old Testament, then you don't know what he's talking about here. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith Elohim, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I'll pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke.
Okay, these things are prophesied to happen and they have not happened. These things are also listed in the Old Testament in much greater detail than what's written here. But if you have already been poisoned against the Old Testament, you don't really understand what's going on. So how do they pacify that? By telling the people, hey, you're going to float up in the air when all that stuff happened anyway, so don't worry about it. Now, let's get an understanding of this Pentecost. Let's go to Leviticus 23. It's the only Old Testament writing we gonna read today, because people have already poisoned themselves against this. But I need to explain how they kept Pentecost. And understand, I remember us having kept the Pentecost, and there were Gentile organizations that had Pentecost on the same day that we had it. That means they kept, well, they understood all the other things leading up to that. So let me show you how they got to Pentecost. Leviticus 23, and let's start at verse 15.
And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
So you count from the Sabbath that you gave the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths. Now, this also deal with those people that like those moving Sabbaths. This gonna deal with that. Go ahead.
Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days.
So tomorrow after the 7th Sabbath, 7 times 7 is 49. The next day is the 50th day. That will always be on Sunday. Pentecost is always on Sunday. 7 Saturdays, 7 times 7 is 49. The next day is 50. That's why they termed it in this new era Penta. Penta is a Greek term meaning 50. Go ahead.
And you just cleared up. If you want to know what day was the Sabbath day, they just explained it to you. Because if Pentecost is on Sunday,
what was the day before? But you know what? It's real easy to figure out. See, we've heard in this whole process several versions of lies and certain stages of lies. First thing they tried to say was, nobody really knows when the Sabbath is, so you should just stop talking about it. Sabbath is lost. It's lost. We can't find it. They call it Good Friday, and they say he had to come down off the cross because it was beginning to be the Sabbath as the sun went down. I'm sorry, I don't have a PhD, but what day come after Friday? Okay, it's not that difficult to figure out. So then they had to move from that lie to something else. Now, well, okay, so we know what it is, so what? So now they got to move to another lie. Then it moved to, well, every day is holy. No. He didn't tell you to be holy every day. See, what he said was have a holy convocation and a day of rest. See, if you rest on the Sabbath, that's holy. If you rest every day, that's lazy. Go ahead.
and you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh.
Right. So then we see then in doing this that Yahweh has there's understanding that you have to count 7 Sabbaths You first of all, you start with Passover, unleavened bread. Then you count the 7 Sabbaths from this time that you've offered the wave offering. So that means that those people who have kept this Pentecost, they understood Passover, unleavened bread, the Feast of First Fruits, which people keep talking about. They keep Sunday because Christ rose on Sunday. Here it's talking about first fruits. There was already a holy day for the resurrection of Christ. It's called Feast of First Fruits. He was raised on first fruits, being just that, first fruits. And then it tells you he was the first fruits of men. So, but getting these, bits and pieces, we're not able to put all of those things together. Let's go to Acts 18. All right, so we ain't going to the Old Testament no more. Y'all ain't got to worry about going back down. Because when people you talking to, anytime you start talking and you're explaining what you're talking about from the Old Testament, you might this is what they hear. La, 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 la. They're not hearing nothing you're saying because they've been completely poisoned against the Old Testament. So you have to be able to prove your doctrine in the half of the book that they deal with. And it's not difficult. You can do it. I'm telling you, it's wonders what you can do with half a stick. Acts 18, and we're going to read verses 18 through 21.
And Saul after this tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchrea, for he had a vow. And he came to Ephesus, and left them there, but he himself entered into the synagogue, and reasoned with the Yehudis. When they desired him to tarry longer time with them, he consented not, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem.
I must by all means keep this feast. People say, you ain't got to deal with those feasts. These things are important unto Yahweh. He says, I must by all means go and keep this feast. Go ahead.
But I will return again unto you, if Elohim will. And he sailed from Ephesus.
All right, jump to chapter 20 and read verse 16. So it's very clear what he's talking about. Acts chapter 20 and read verse 16.
For Saul had determined to sail by Ephesus, because he would not spend the time in Asia, for he hasted, if it were possible for him, to be at Jerusalem the time of Pentecost.
All right, so it's very clear that he was keeping these holy days after Christ's death and resurrection. Do you understand that Saul was not an original apostle? He did not walk with he was not one of the original disciples. He received his visitation afterward, not beforehand. So clearly, if there's a teaching against this, he wouldn't have been pushing to get these things done. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Verse 1. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant.
Now, these are called spiritual gifts. Now, if they're spiritual gifts, then they're gifts given from on high. Yet the very people that tell you that you don't have to do the commandments, they're telling you that they can teach you how to do these on their own. Go ahead.
You know that you were Gentiles, carried away onto these dumb idols, even as you were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaking by the Spirit of Elohim calleth Yahshua accursed, and that no man can say that Yahshua is the Adonai, but by the Holy Ghost. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Adonai. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same Elohim which worketh all in all.
Right. So there's different gifts, and there's different setups for those gifts and different reasons for those gifts. Go ahead.
But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another the gifts of healing by the same Spirit.
Right. So if I want healing, would it make sense for me to go to the person who have the word of wisdom? Amen. Unless you're going to tell me what medicine to take. I need healing. So there are diversities in these gifts. Go ahead.
Verse 10. To another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another diverse kinds of tongues.
To another diverse kinds of tongues. What would be the purpose of that? If they need to speak the word to people who speak other languages. You speaking another language to me that I don't understand, you ain't impressing me. All you saying is goo gobbly-goo. You might well get in front of one of them babies. What the baby? Is that what they keep the commandments? Yes, the baby does. I don't understand what you're talking about. So don't come and think you're impressing me by speaking your different language. Hey man, speak of English. Go ahead.
To another the interpretation of tongues. But all these work at that one and the self same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will.
So it has the same purpose then, to edify. Go ahead.
For as the body is one, and has many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is the Messiah. For by one Spirit are we all baptized into one body, whether we be Yehudis or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. The body is not one member, but many. So it has all of these diverse things that mix to it to culminate into this whole thing. Even with these diversities of gifts, they must be able to merge and work together. Go ahead. If the foot shall say, because I'm not the hand, I'm not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I'm not the eye, I'm not of the body, is it therefore not of the body?
And this is the same thing that happens when people declare that they can't work with other people inside of the congregation. It's a part of the body fighting against another part of the body. See, when that happens inside your body, you have to go to the doctor. Because you keep trying to walk and your knee say, I don't want to walk. Yeah, but the leg said we need to walk. Well, I don't care nothing about the leg. I am the knee, and I'm the only one important here. Wait a minute, bro. Wait a minute. I need you to cooperate. What they said when we were little? What the song they used to sing? The hip bone connected to the. Yeah. You remember that? No, but Jake said, look, I'm all by myself. We just out there in the middle. We ain't connected to nothing. That ain't gonna work. Same thing. These gifts are given for different reasons to merge together to get to one common cause. And if we decide that we're not going to bend for nothing, everybody going to have to bend for us, Yahweh has a tendency to get rid of those things that does not profit him. Go ahead.
1 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 17. If the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where were the smelling? But now has Elohim set the members, every one of them, in the body, as it has pleased him.
Right. Now, it talked about the diversities of gifts. Then it went to having all of these different gifts and how they work together for the same thing. One of those things was diverse kinds of tongues. The other was interpretations of tongues. So it's amazing. I've heard people who know how to speak different languages basically say this same thing, that they are not of the body, that they are better because they believe that their gift is more important than any other gift. Check that out. That's what we're doing. We're then fighting against the body because I have this gift of prophecy. The rest of y'all ain't got no gift. Or if some brother can speak, a language, he said, unless y'all can speak the languages I speak, then y'all ain't really Hebrews. Right. That's taking whatever gift they have and pulling it outside the body, not understanding the purpose of the gift. Go ahead.
You know, verse 18, it says, Elohim set the members as it pleased him.
Mm-hmm.
When you stop pleasing him, you will be removed as a member.
What you do? What they call it? What, a heart transplant?
Mm-hmm.
That was what, the heart wasn't working. They pulled it out and put another one in there. Yeah, I ain't working. They take that thing out. Yeah, Yahweh do the same thing. He said, look here, this knee ain't working. Move that, put another knee there. So this ain't working. And let me tell you about working. You either work the way he wants you to work or you're not working. See, if you're doing it on your own and everything got to be the way you want it, you ain't working. Go ahead.
You know, even with that heart transplant, there's a selective process they go through, because you put the wrong heart into the body is going to reject it.
Some people were born with the wrong heart, bro. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now are they many members, yet but one body.
But let me tell you something. Even being born with the wrong heart, if we had a true desire to change, Yahweh has provided opportunity for us. But what happened is we grow accustomed to that wrong heart and thinking the wrong way and doing things in the wrong manner, and we don't want to change it. And that's a problem. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And the eye cannot say unto the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. No, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need, but Elohim have tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that part which lacked.
Right. You don't think about your pinky toe. Nobody goes about to think about their pinky toe until it hurt. Or until it does not do its job. Nobody think about their toes, period. But let me tell you something, that big toe don't work, your balance so off. Every time you take a step, you fall. You paying more attention to that big toe now? Why? Because it's lacking. It's not doing its job. Now, the rest of the body got to kick in and overwork because that one part is not doing its job. Same thing in the body of the Mashiach. When some person decide that they're not going to do whatever they're supposed to do, other people have to work harder. Yahweh allow it for a little bit. Then he removed that and order a transplant. Go ahead.
Verse 25. That there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. And whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it. Or one member be honored, all the members rejoice with it.
Right. If part of your foot start hurting and you start favoring the other foot and you walking around this part that lack, you're going to start feeling first a pain in your calf muscle. Then the pain going to move all the way up to your the back of your leg. Why is it doing that? That's because all those other parts of the body start helping because the foot couldn't do what it needed to do. But then you got those that say, hey, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Go ahead.
Now you are the body of the Messiah, and members in particular.
Right. So all of that was said to get right back to this point. You are the body of the Mashiach and members in particular. So all of that was said, wasn't said for the body naturally. It was all said for the body spiritually. But he gave you something natural to correlate it to. Go ahead.
And Elohim have set some in the church, first apostles, secondarily prophets, thirdly teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healings, helps, governments, diversities of tongues.
It's amazing with the brothers who speak Hebrew, they think that their gift is so important that they have put themselves over all of them. It said, Elohim have set some in the church, first apostles, secondarily prophets. Then you got other brothers that believe anybody who can read is a prophet. Go ahead.
Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles?
If anybody who reads the Bible is a prophet, then all would be prophets. See, you have to judge the spirit by the spirit. Listen to what's coming out of somebody's mouth and see if it match what's in this book. Go ahead.
Have all the gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way.
Right, but this don't mean put down somebody else's gift because you don't have that one or you got this one. Jump to chapter 14.
1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 1. Follow after love and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that you may prophesy. For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto Elohim. For no man understandeth him. Howbeit in the spirit he speaketh mysteries.
For there's no language that Yahweh does not understand. Do understand that it was Yahweh that confounded men's language. At the Tower of Babel, that's the reason it's called Babel. Babel means confusion. So he said, look, we've left man alone, and this is what they began to do. Scatter them abroad among the face of the earth. And then he confounded the language so that they wouldn't speak to one another. So when people tell you, you know, we should all just come together and all be, that wasn't Yahweh's plan. Yahweh was the one to split us up. He was the one to say, all right, you Chinese people go over there. You people, yeah, burnt face, you go over there. You go over there. All y'all go. Now I tell you what, don't none of y'all speak the same language. Here, you get this one. You get this one. You get this one. Now I want y'all to be cohabitating. Cause see, this is the evil that y'all put together when y'all live together. So all y'all go to your place, go over there and live and be with your people. It was Yahweh that did that. So everybody that keep talking this, we should all come together and make some great melting pot of nations. No, man, that ain't from the mind of Yahweh. Yahweh was the one to split us up. And the thing that's ruling over us now is called Babylon. It is the kingdom of Babel. Confusion. And you can clearly see the confusion here. In this land. Go ahead.
Verse 3. But he that prophesies speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort.
So prophecy is held at a high value because people can understand it. Go ahead.
He that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself, but he that prophesieth edifieth the church.
Right. If you speak in an unknown tongue and don't nobody know what you're saying, the only person that's edified is you. And what's the purpose of talking if don't nobody understand but you? If I got back here and spoke Spanish the whole time we was over there, Julio Iglesias and Jasmine, just cream up. What y'all gonna get out of that? What y'all gonna get out of that? Come on, say y'all, amen. What? Go ahead, man.
I would that you all spake with tongues, but rather that you prophesied. For greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues.
Yet, you got these strange brothers that think anybody who read is prophesying. Now, if this is such a great gift, and it is a gift of the Spirit, how you going to give it to yourself? That's just as twisted as the brother who got this major congregation teaching people that he can teach you how to speak in tongues. Wait a minute, man. If it's a gift of the Spirit, how can you teach it unless you got the Spirit bottled up in the back? And you just let a little bit out. Let me let that Spirit out. All right, that's enough. That's enough. What? How you do that? Go ahead.
Except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying. Now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you, except I shall speak to you either by revelation, or by knowledge, or by prophesying, or by doctrine?
Mm-hmm.
And even things without life-giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped?
Right. Even a musical instrument has notes. And if you playing strange notes, people like, ugh, sounds horrible. That's what a strange language sounds like to somebody who don't know it. Hey, dude, go to farmer's market. You gonna hear all kind of languages in there, and it sounds like noise to you, cause you don't know what they saying. Go ahead.
For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle? So likewise you, except you utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? For you shall speak into the ear.
I can say all kind of big words and make myself sound incredibly intelligent, so that at the end of the day, people say, wow, he is intelligent. Well, what did he say? I don't know. Who did I help? Me. I ain't help nobody else. Because they don't understand what I said. It said, but it sounded deep though. Go ahead.
There are, it may be, so many kinds of voices in the world, and none of them is without signification. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, I shall be unto him that speaketh a barbarian, and he that speak shall be a barbarian unto me. Even so you, for as much as you are zealous of spiritual gifts, seek that you may excel to the edifying of the church. Wherefore let him that speaketh in an unknown tongue pray that he may interpret. For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. What is it then? I will pray with the spirit, and I will pray with the understanding also. I will sing with the spirit, and I will sing with the understanding also. Else when you shall bless with the spirit, so shall he that occupieth the room of the unlearned say amen.
How?
Else when you shall bless with the spirit, how shall he that occupieth the room of the unlearned say amen at your giving of thanks, seeing he understand not what you say?
And clear example. This is what people do. Then everybody say, amen. Do you know amen mean you just agree? Now, I'm going to agree with I can't agree with that. I'm going to need you to interpret that, brother. What you say? Well, I spoke in the spirit. Well, I'm going to need you to interpret in the spirit. Tell me what you said. Otherwise, I can't say amen to that. See, I see people getting themselves in trouble. You go to one of these baseball games, them people rise up to say to pledge the flag, and people like, well, you know, I don't pledge the flag. I'm tell you something. It's 20,000 drunk Gentiles in there. You might want to stand up. I don't know how you going to fight 20,000 drunk Gentiles. Let me tell you something. And then I had a couple of them Budweisers. Brother, you just going to sit there while we praise the flag? You might want to stand up, man. You might want to stand. You might not make it out of there. All right? Now, you ain't got to put your heart. Just stand up. Just stand up. Just look around. But you might want to stand up, because your life might be on the line in there. Because after a few bills, they might do something to you. Same thing. If you find yourself in a situation and somebody praying some stuff and that stuff strange, just don't say amen. You ain't got to go through all that. Well, I'm going to sit down. You can be right in the midst of them. Everybody say amen. Just don't agree. Simple as that. Go ahead.
Verse 17. For you verily give it thanks well, but the other is not edified. I thank my Elohim, I speak with tongues more than you all. Yet in the church I had rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue.
There is definitely something, this needs to be posted to a lot of brothers who speak Hebrew, because they have begun to believe that their speaking in Hebrew has somehow helped them and put their gift over everything else. Now, this is the brother that said, I speak more tongues than all of y'all. Why? What was the purpose of him knowing those tongues? He was the one that went all around teaching the word. So as he went to these other lands, he knew their language to speak to them the word in their language, not going to Greece and speaking Hebrew. What's the purpose of going to Greece and speaking Hebrew? Why would you go to France talking about, yeah, man, I'm going to teach y'all the word in Hebrew? No, man, no. We pass. So he had to know their language to teach them the word. See, people don't understand what the gift of tongues is all about. He says point blank, I would rather speak a small amount of words with understanding than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. Because don't nobody understand anything that you're saying. Go ahead.
Brethren, be not children. Brethren, be not children in understanding. Howbeit in malice be you children, but in understanding be men.
Right. When it comes down to understanding that we are supposed to grow and not be led about with these diverse doctrines. However, in malice be you children. Children forgive one another almost immediately. Children fight on the playground and they write back friends. It's grown-ups that carry that mess on, and they put up there. I mean, we go buy backpacks just so we can put hate in it. So, man, you go to school? No, I just got a backpack of hate. I like to carry this around just in case I run into that brother again. What? Just so we can carry old hatred. Hatred be old. You open up that bag of hatred, got on bell bottom. Man, you been carrying around some bell bottom hatred. Yeah, well, I ain't seen the brother in 20 years, but I know I'm going to see him one day. So I'm keeping this hatred right here in this backpack. Right. See how that work out for you. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 3. See how that work out for you.
960.
Zephaniah chapter 3, and let's read verses 8 through 9.
Verse 8. Therefore wait you upon me, saith Yahweh.
I told a lie. This is one more from the Old Testament. I'm sorry. And we're going to end with one out of Proverbs. Go ahead.
Therefore wait you upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy.
Now understand, this has not happened yet. So you got all of these people that are telling you that the Old Testament have been done away with, yet we can read instance after instance that has not happened yet. So you're dealing with and have allowed people to tell you to cast away this part of the book. There are whole complete sections that have not taken place. Go ahead.
For then will I turn to the people a pure language.
Now, you ain't got to be a rocket scientist to know that we don't have a pure language now. So then that is what the power of the gift of speaking another language is about. But you have to speak the language that particular people understands. Saul didn't go to France and then speak some other kind of language or speak Hebrew in France. He spoke the language that was spoken in that land. Go ahead.
That they may all call upon the name of Yahweh to serve him with one consent. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
That's far enough. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. Look, by the time y'all find one, I'm already on the other one. It's not going too fast today. Yeah, that's Zephaniah high from you too. It's high from you. Matthew chapter 24. And we're going to start this at verse 1.
Matthew chapter 24 and verse 1. And Yahshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the building of the temple. And Yahshua said unto them, See you not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be torn down.
Right. And what you have now is people going over to the land talking about they're praying against the wall of the temple, and that's not what that is. And this, if that was what it was, then that would make Yahshua a liar. That ain't the temple. So people going over there praying, throwing their head up against a wall, which was an old fort that they throwing their head up against. That is not any wall of the temple. They tell me this is the last remaining wall of the temple. And they over there and they pray and they just throw their little head. You can walla at the wall down there. It's the same thing. I don't care where you walla at. That wall is not a building of the temple. But if you feel like you want to spend your money and get you a passport and go all the way over there and walla at that wall, you go right ahead. Be my guest. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world?
Okay, now what shall be the sign of your coming? So now we're talking about the second coming of the Mashiach. Go ahead.
And Yahshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
So it's talking about these wars. Now we already have in the Old Testament the description of these wars. But remember now, the false New Testament doctrine is telling you to stay away from those things. Go ahead.
For nation shall arise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
And the children of Israel, the true children of Israel, are hated for his name's sake. See, nobody walking around hating the false people who have been set in the land as the Jews. All around the earth, the people that they hate are this so-called African American. And it's not just happening here. It's happening all over the globe, wherever we've been scattered. There are people going through the same things that we're going through. Go ahead.
And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many.
Why? Because these false prophets offer personal prophecies, and people pay to go see these people offer personal prophecies. And it's amazing because all the prophets in the Old Testament, this is one of the reasons why they don't want you to read the Old Testament. The prophets in the Old Testament prophesied things that pertain to the nation, the kingdom of Israel. These personal prophets who visit these churches on Sunday, they all give personal prophecies. You gonna own a business. You gonna do that. You gonna do this. Wait a minute. What does that have to do with us as a people? See, so they don't want you to read what a real prophet did. They prophets, Profits. They for profit, because you got to spend money to even go get one of them prophecies. So you don't just get to come up there when they had a prophet to make his rounds and he on his prophetic tour. You got to pay money to come up there and get your little personal prophecy. You don't get to just walk up there. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And because lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax old.
Iniquity is lawlessness. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Go ahead.
But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand.
Now, automatically the Messiah refers you back to Daniel the prophet. So how can somebody tell you that, look, I don't deal with any of the Old Testament? Then you going, Yahshua says, whoever keep my sayings, he it is that love me. So whenever somebody tell you, oh, that Old Testament, well, I don't deal with none of that. Oh, okay, so you don't love Christ. Because he automatically referred us back to the Old Testament. This red writing. He wrote this. These are his words. These are the things that they copied out of his sayings. Go ahead.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray you that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day.
Wait a minute. He's saying, pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath day. But wait a minute, I thought the Sabbath was done away with. So why would Christ understand something? He's talking about the judgment at the end of the world. So the Sabbath is still supposed to be in effect at judgment. See, we've been taught a lot of lies. And because we respected the people that taught us those lies, we've respected the lies. Go ahead.
Verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation.
Great tribulation ain't happened yet. Yet, he's talking about the Sabbath during the great tribulation. That means the Sabbath was still supposed to be in effect all the way until great tribulation. Because after that, he's going to set up the spiritual Sabbath. The rest, where the adversary is chained for 1,000 years. And then there's rest and peace on earth. So there's a natural Sabbath and then there's a spiritual Sabbath. So all those that proclaim they don't have to do nothing with the natural Sabbath, don't worry, because you probably won't keep the spiritual one either. Go ahead.
Such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. No, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is the Messiah, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false messiahs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken.
Now, we have to consider this. He's telling us this prophecy of the end time. Understand, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Joel, Amos, Zephaniah, all gave similar prophecies. Matter of fact, they're given in greater detail than what he's given here. And these things have not been fulfilled yet. But then people are still telling you to stay out of the Old Testament. Yet, Christ automatically has directed you back to Daniel. Then he's talking about this event. This is an event that you want to know about. Wait a minute. The sun darkened and the moon should not give her light. You go to search on that and you find that all these prophets are still mentioning these things. And they're mentioning them in greater detail. So these people who are instructing you to stay out of the Old Testament, they want you to stay ignorant. You have to wonder why anybody would want you to be ignorant. You really have to ask a question. See, there's certain of us, and we know the game. You've gotten certain jobs, and there were certain people that were over you who really did not want you to understand the job because they were trying to keep their own. So they wanted to make sure that you were ignorant about certain details. You really have to wonder, why would anybody want you to be ignorant unless they were trying to rule over you? Go ahead, brother.
Verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
All right, now let us hit a conclusion of this matter. Let us go to Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 1. My son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments.
Now, there are a whole lot of people that will tell you to stay out of the Old Testament. But then there are people who do have their Bibles open, sitting on their coffee table. It's open to a Psalm or a proverb. But at the same time, they're taught, stay out of the Old Testament. It's like, you do know the Psalms and the Proverbs in the Old Testament, right? And anybody who tells you to be, to stay away from Psalms and Proverbs, you need to stay away from them people. And automatically, my son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. Go ahead.
For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them about your neck. Write them upon the table of your heart. So shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim and man. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not onto your own understanding.
And that's what you are forced to lean to when you're getting these cherry picking of scripture. When somebody just read verse 3, then they jump to another chapter and read verse 19. Then they talk for another 25 minutes. Then they jump over here, and people think they're getting taught, or they think, oh, pastor really did it today, child. 2 hours, they read 4 verses. You cannot get any understanding out of that. What you got is his understanding of what he wanted to give you, because you didn't read enough to get an understanding. That's why we read. That's why you're not sitting up here listening to me tell you a bunch of stories. We say some things in between the reading, but we're going to read a full thought. Go ahead.
Verse 6. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh and depart from evil.
When you fear Yahweh, you respect Yahweh. There's a certain amount of fear that is connected with respect. I see a lot of these new parents and how their kids treat them. I can tell their kids don't respect them. They tell their kids to do something, the kid do the exact opposite. That kid don't respect you. Then you have to ask yourself, why doesn't that kid respect you? There's a certain amount of fear and respect that goes hand in hand. When the police pull up, brother stop, yes sir. Why? There's a certain amount of fear with respect, because you know, hey man, that gun real. And them bullets ain't got nobody's name on them. So people who do not have any fear of Yahweh, they don't have any fear of righteous judgment, they don't have any respect for Yahweh. Go ahead.
Verse 8. It shall be held to your navel, and marrow to your bones. Honor Yahweh with your substance, and with the first fruits of all your increase. So shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses shall burst out with new wine. My son, despise not the chastening of Yahweh, neither be you weary of his correction. For whom Yahweh loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things you can desire are not to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor.
So this is the way that we're supposed to seek out understanding, the same way that we seek out money. We get up early to go get some money. We be inconvenienced to get some money. Folks say, look, I don't want to do such and such. Well, it pay $300. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna work that out. Let's do that. Yet when it comes to getting down some understanding, hey man, read this chapter. No, bro, I ain't got time to be reading nothing. But we'll be inconvenienced if we're making some money. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her. Yahweh by wisdom hath founded the earth, by understanding has he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. My son, let not them depart from your eyes. keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto your soul and grace to your neck. Then shall you walk in your way safely, and your foot shall not stumble. When you lie down, you shall not be afraid. Yes, you shall lie down, and your sleep shall be sweet. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked, when it cometh. For Yahweh shall be your confidence, and shall keep your foot from being taken. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do it.
Right. If some homeless brother asking for a few dollars and you got a few dollars in your pocket, how is it hurting you to do that? Now I'll come back here tomorrow and I'll give you something. It's in the power of your hand to do it now. It says be careful, for some of you have entertained angels unawares. Imagine if you walk by that homeless brother, man, he ain't gonna do nothing but buy some liquor with it. Come to figure out that was an angel of Yahweh and Yahweh was testing you. Now what you gonna do on the day that you stand for judgment? And they said, who gonna testify against this man? And an angel stand up and say, yeah, man, I was in need and in lack. You know, I asked this brother, and this is what he said to me. I didn't do that to one of them angels. Yes, you did. You just didn't recognize him as an angel when you did it. Go ahead.
Verse 28. Say not unto your neighbor, go and come again, and tomorrow I'll give, when you have it by you. Devise not evil against your neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by you. Strive not with a man without cause, if he has done you no harm.
And let me tell you something. People think that they have cause, and they don't, because they don't understand the righteousness of what's written in this book. People gonna be embarrassed to have to stand before the judgment seat and offer their cause. So why did you have a problem with this person? Because their car looked better than mine. That's what you're gonna stand in judgment and say? But see, they're too ashamed to say it out loud. But Yahweh gonna draw it out. So you can give all the fake examples and the fake reasons to man, but you ain't gonna be able to get that fake reason to Yahshua. He gonna pull it out. No, that ain't the real problem. Try again. Well, it was because such that. No, that ain't the real one either. Come on now. No. Let's get on down to it. See, I need you to understand. I'm gonna make sure you understand before I throw you in this lake. Now go ahead. Go ahead.
Envy you not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. For the froward is abomination to Yahweh, but his secret is with the righteous. The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blesseth the habitation of the just.
And the house of the wicked, according to this book, is any house that teaches you to break the commandments. That's a wicked house. Go ahead.
Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace unto the lowly. The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools.
All right, that's all that we're going to do for today. Let us keep these things in our hearts and minds, because as we go about, there are many opportunities that Yahweh has given you to testify of the great hope that you have inside of this word, and those people will approach you. You know, I've had people approach me this week and wanted to talk about this New Testament, and as soon as I mentioned the Sabbath, you know, everything that they had been taught was completely against it. And then once you have, there are some that will receive your witness, and there are some that won't receive your witness. Do understand, you are not judged by whether or not people accept your witness. You are judged by whether or not you offer your witness. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.